All right. We're recording. We're live. Welcome.
We're back.
Welcome to another episode of the unit. Actually, episode 1, not another. This is the first episode. The reason I slipped up was because we did a pilot episode, which is online, so you should totally watch it. But welcome to episode 1 of the C Units. My name is Steve Safarowick.
Welcome, Steve. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in 8 months, man. So it's always good to see you at least online.
Introduce yourself, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah, my name is Kaleb. Whatever you guys want to know, pronounce it. But yeah, happy to be here again. Episode 1. Let's go.
Happy to be here again, like you're a recurring guest. Are you like the guy that sits on the couch of the late night talk show?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So we're going to dive into our first episode, which is really relevant to what we're just talking about, which is habit building. So the reason we chose habit building is because, to be honest, if you don't have a goal, you can't make habits. If you don't have habits, you're working on willpower. And willpower is a very finite source of energy. Like you can use willpower to do certain things, like get off your butt and man, I got to clean the cat's poop. But
Yeah.
You have to build habits that sort of put you into this autonomous mode. And then life gets so much easier when you're not fighting willpower, but you just have this autonomous flow of energy and positivity because you're aligned with how these habits are leading you to your goal.
But yeah, I think more importantly, setting up a goal, it has to be a holistic goal, right? It has to be something that is more wholesome, if you want to put it like that, something that does not just fit into one box. It has to be embedded in everything that you do, in everything that you are as a person. Yeah, we're going to touch upon some of the areas that make us be like this and perform every day.
When we were planning this show, I didn't want to, and I think we discussed this, we didn't want to just be another show or episode or book on habits. There's a lot of good books out there. Atomic Habits, 1% Changes. There's no shortage of books on habits. So I didn't want to take that route. And for me, habit forming is particularly difficult. For me, it's about getting to the root of the cause or creating the garden before you water the plants. The plants are the habits. So I've been really recently interested in reprogramming subconscious. So going a layer deeper, like going into your own internal matrix and trying to change that so you can understand the meaning of habits and how you should perceive habits and goals. So that's going to be where I'm coming from today.
I'm going to be coming from perhaps a layer above that. I think for you, you're in this state of your life where you want to reboot a few things. I'll let you share whatever you want to share. But for me, it's more about maintenance. I consider myself a guy of habits, routines. I need them, honestly, to function and to feel happy and to feel sane. So I'm going to be more on the level of maintenance of those habits and the things that I do in order to stay disciplined and share my insights on that, the things that I've learned in my short life.
Our lives have been short. We're very young. Believe it or not. So for me, I was trying to think of my sort of foundational, like bedrock habit or maybe self identity, which is fitness. So I think for about, I would say at least 20 years, I've been in autonomous mode to the gym, probably 3 years of willpower. And then everything after that has been completely into like blackout. You just have to do this habit. And that before I got into the gym, I was in school. I guess I was like pretty chubby. I don't know, maybe got bullied a little bit. And I joined the wrestling team in high school, which is a complete eye opener. I would be lying if I said my dad didn't push me into it. And it was pretty intense. And it requires a lot of fitness. And the guys were so fit. There's so much camaraderie. And I was just like this pudgy guy in the corner. But eventually I discovered fitness and started getting ripped. And so I think my freshman year of high school, I was wrestling at 215 pounds.
Whoa.
And then my senior year, I was wrestling at 171. So by then I was ripped and I had lost so much weight and it was like, this is like a high. And it wasn't until I got to college that I started discovering people that were super into fitness and I got into weightlifting and bodybuilding. Right. And ever since then, it's been instilled in my identity. And that's the habit I need to anchor to model my other habits.
First of all, I want to say that we're going to show the photos of you in all these different stages.
I have those for high school years.
you have to ask your parents for that shit, because people are gonna want to see you back in the day, chubby Steve, and then how you progressed. I gotta see that anyway. But yeah, it's a cool story, and I think it's cool that your dad pushed you to do that. I would say parents are obviously a key element of everyone's life. You mimic your parents, you try to see, learn from them, and you try to pick up some habits as well. And also, sometimes I feel parents project, like they're like, okay, if I wasn't able to do X, Y, or Z, my kid's gonna be able to do this. And my parents were also, they're great parents, by the way, and they always push me and my brothers to do things that they never did. My parents grew up in a very humble family, both of them, numerous kids back in Mexico. My dad had 12 brothers and sisters. Figure that out. 12 brothers and sisters. My mom had 8 brothers and sisters. I don't know how the hell my grandparents raised that amount of children and pay for whatever they had. They didn't have much money. So anyway, when I grew up in Mexico, my mom and my dad were always pushing me and my brothers to like do sports or try to learn things, etc. So I think honestly, the reason why I'm saying this is because since I have memory, I've always been aware and prioritized my body, mind, and work. These have been like the 3 things that honestly I've thought about this because I prepared for this. I was always aware of my body, and I was always aware of my mind, and I was always aware of work. And I have a few anecdotes for that, and I can bring them up as we go into the anecdote section. But yeah, these 3 things have been like the hardcore and true foundations of my personality, which are obviously part of my habits. So yeah, the one habit like you that I will never leave and I am absolutely passionate about is sports. Not just one sport. Again, coming back to those 3 things, I believe that when you're able to master your body and when you're able to understand it from your mind to your toes, it's something just happens. And when you're able to see other people who are able to perform at, for example, an Olympic level, it's just insanely interesting and impactful, and hence why I respect people who perform at a very high level in sports.
Yeah.
And I appreciate every sport. I've done several sports in my life.
There's some
since I
weird
was a kid.
shit out there, by the way, before you say every sport. There's like
True.
slap boxing.
That's
I
true.
don't
That's true.
appreciate that shit.
That's true. Yeah, there's some weird stuff out there. But yeah, similar to you, I find some similarity here. That your dad put you into wrestling, right? So it's like physical, it's competitive. Obviously, most sports are competitive, but to a level of almost like fighting, right? Like you have to compete with someone, and you have to pull up strength. You have to be smart about it. You have to, have this mental resilience and stamina to be able to overcome the challenges. And I also was in karate. So I was in karate when I was like 13 till 16. And I used to hate that shit. Like I used to hate going there, and I used to hate like everything about it because it was late at night. I just wanted to chill, but my parents pushed us, me and my brothers. And then I got to a point where I was like black belt. And then when I got into black belt, which took 3 years, I was like, oh shit, man, this is dope. Like I want to continue. And then the goddamn dojo dissolved, and there goes my black belt.
You can't go any higher than black belt. You peak too soon.
You can't. There's 6 stands above black belt. So a dan is like another level of inside the black belt, which is like very hard to achieve. But yeah, all sorts of sports, which we could talk about later on, like calisthenics, running, football, obviously, swimming, you name it. But yeah, I love sports. I will continue to do them, hopefully until I die. And then I said work as well, right? I think hard work is something that you and I also share.
I hope people found us interesting because we used like 10 minutes on that. So much for our 20-minute goal. All right. So that's a little bit, that's you guys getting to know us, and we're finding out, this is episode 1, and we know it's going to be some time before we get more listeners. So you guys are getting to know us, but now we definitely want there to be actionable takeaways. So let's get into things that we feel like are important for habits. And I think we both have our own sort of ideas. Coming from the build the garden before you water the plants, I believe that number 1, I think is a common theme that we'll find in any book, is you absolutely have to have a goal, a holistic goal or a very specific goal. And there's a few things that you can do for this. I don't want to sound preachy, so I'm going to choose my words carefully, but there's a one strategy where you write your goal on the back of a card and you literally carry it with you all day, every day, and you repeat it to yourself. I have one right now. It's a bit personal, but I'll say that that's like the big domino. And all my habits to achieve that are basically for that purpose, to achieve that goal. So that's the one I repeat to myself anytime I feel lost or fearful or my mind wandering, or I think imposter syndrome, any sense of doubt or insecurity. I bring that up and I say, what does somebody who wants to achieve this goal, what is that avatar? What would they do in this situation? How would they think? And it almost instantaneously clears my mind. So that's number one. And I guess we'll ping pong this, if you will. If you want to build on that, we're going to the next most important.
I'll just add into that I think no goal is achievable without a plan, right? I think if you don't have a plan, I wouldn't call it a strategy per se, but if you want to get to that point and you don't have like at least a rough idea of how to get there, it's going to be hard to achieve. So for me, it's more about trusting that plan and setting it up not before the goal, obviously, but before I start the pathway towards that goal. But yeah, also important to have a plan and not stick to it, but try to remember it.
Immerse yourself in the right environment. And that actually sounds crazy because you're like, man, for some people, like Alex Hormozy, I remember one episode, he said, maybe you need to get out of your city. Maybe you need to move to another city to be completely in a different environment. I moved from the US to China when I was 24. That's the extreme. You moved recently from Hong Kong to Madrid, but environment doesn't have to be physical space. It can be physical space. It can be something as far as like when I'm here in this seat, it's much harder for me to get into flow state than it is when I'm in the office. So if I really want to be productive, like tomorrow morning, I'm going to go to the office and start playing around with this and editing and getting some content, because I know if I'm here, the cat will be playing with me, or I'll turn on the TV. Right. But it can also be changing the people you hang out with. It's really big. It's really important. Sometimes that's really hard to do, to find people that will give you the time to hang out with them and talk with them frequently. So what do? Now we're in the golden age of content. You find podcasts, you find creators or influencers that are positive and constructive, and you just keep these things on replay. And I swear it sounds cheesy because just by reading or listening to something, you have to take action. But if you listen to it enough, it changes the way you think and how you identify. I identify as somebody like this person, right? So that's what I'm doing currently. And honestly, it's been extremely helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, daily self-education. That's something that you and I do constantly, almost every day. And that helps us to program our minds. And hopefully one day, some kids somewhere, they reference us and they're like, oh, those two guys who jump on calls and they talk about X, Y, and that would be cool. But yeah, you got to put in the reps, not just do it one day and then maybe in 2 weeks you try again. Yeah, definitely. It's like going to the gym, right? If you don't go there often and you don't try to progress, right? Have a plan and do the workouts. And then the next day you might feel sore, but then the soreness after some time is going to become into something that you're actually enjoying, right? When you start feeling the body and you're like, oh shit, I have this muscle that I haven't felt before. Same thing happens with your brain. When you start practicing and you start preparing for something, a goal, project, etc., and that self-education habit sticks and helps you to overcome a challenge, etc. Yeah, I think that's part of like how we reprogram ourselves as well, and hence why we go to this other parasocial friends that you and I have, and they do help us a lot. They definitely help us a lot.
I honestly, sometimes I want to write to these guys and just be like, dude, you really helped me.
Well, you do.
I do on you, but I really am going to make an effort as we improve this series and we get more out there. I want to start reaching out to them and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And using it to build those relationships. But I really do appreciate it. Number 3 on this list I have here, I think we reviewed it before the show, is I am statements, which we talked about. I shared with you something from a book called How We Talk to Ourselves, or What We Say When We Talk to Ourselves. And there's a lot of books I want to share. I can't fit them all in today, but they're very helpful. So when we talk to ourselves, like the first thing that normally a lot of negative, I don't want to say negative people, I don't want to get in the preachy zone, is I can't. Level 2 is I need to, or I should, which is like I recognize that I should change. Level 3 is the level of decision to change, which is I never, like I don't associate as this anymore. I don't do that anymore. If somebody wants to quit smoking, I'm not a smoker anymore. And then there's 5. Number 4 is where it gets really powerful, which is I am. And this is going to sound silly, but even if you aren't something yet, you really have to start positioning yourself to identify as somebody that has achieved that. So I am successful. I am a likable, I'm a magnetic person that people like to be around. I am a healthy individual. Consider myself fit. So you might go out and meet somebody and they'll say, what are your hobbies? And you say, I'm trying to get into fitness. I'm a little bit lazy. No, I'm fit, man. Even if you've only woke up and gone for runs 3 days in 1 week, just say, I wake up in the morning and I go for runs. And they're like, wow, that's impressive. And you're like, wow, I like that reaction. I like that identity. So these I am statements. And this is something that starts off in your head or even like looking in the mirror. And if you can look in the mirror and you say these things and you can't help but smile or be like, man, what are you talking about? It's not there yet. So you have to get it to a point where you can look yourself in the eyes, as cheesy as this sounds, and say these things. And that's when it starts to stink in. And you're like, that's the reaction I want to portray when people are talking to me. So that you bring that energy with you. So number 3 is I am statements. I don't know. This is probably something that I just started introducing you to these concepts. So
no, but I think obviously they make sense. And sometimes you have a different approach, but envisioning is definitely something that I do very often, especially when I'm preparing for something, right? I'll give you an example that I just recently started getting really into marathons, right? Running a little bit more seriously. And I've only run 2 in my life, but it's definitely something that I'm turning into a habit, the habit of running 1 marathon per year. Maybe one year I'll start doing 2 if I feel like it. But it's something that in the beginning feels like extremely difficult, almost impossible. And you start envisioning, right? Like you start envisioning, okay, what's going to happen on the day, on the race day, and how am I going to overcome this kilometer, etc. And for the second marathon, I used to say, I didn't say it like that, but I used to tell myself, I'm going to do it. There's going to be a point where you're going to tell yours. And I remember, trust me, like my wife used to see me like sitting in the bus, just looking towards the horizon. And she's, are you okay? And I'm like, and it was while I was training for the marathon, right, in the block. And she was like, are you okay? I'm like, oh, sorry. I was just like envisioning the race. She's like, what are you talking about? I was literally imagining the race. She's like, oh, we're on the bus. And I'm like, yeah, this is how I'm training when I'm not training physically. I'm like literally training myself for that moment when I'm telling myself, you can't do it. I kid you not, I used to tell myself during those moments of self-reflection or autism, however you want to call them. But
I'm going through that moment in the race where I have to shit, so I have to shit my pants. So
seriously, no, I kid you not, man, it's super important. So yeah, the I am statements are powerful and they do help. 100%.
It's embarrassing at first. You sound like a fraud, but that's the whole point. You have to overcome that, or else you're just gonna always feel small.
Yeah.
You know, so once again, we're like 3 tips in. The reason this goes back to habits is because otherwise, if you don't really put these things into action, you're just using willpower. It has to come from a flow state autonomy, and it has to come from, I want to achieve that habit. So I am the type of person that has that habit. And that makes it so much easier than setting an alarm for 5 a.m. and waking up for a second and being like, I don't need to be up. I'll go back to bed. But then when you really think about it the next day and you're like, but I want to be somebody that wakes up at 5 a.m. and gets shit done for 3 hours.
Right.
That's when it starts to kick in. And then you go for what you do it for a week. And then you tell people, I wake up at 5 a.m. And they're like, oh, wow, damn, man. And you're like, yeah, you goddamn I do. I've been doing it for years. But no, now that's why I made the 6 a.m. club with my buddies.
Yeah.
Over beers. And the first day I was like, fuck, what did I get myself into? And then we did it. And then every day I got a text message. All right, boys, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. And now it's been 2 weeks. Cool. And that is it. We are the 6 a.m. club. We are guys that get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym.
Accountability.
And it feels so great for the rest of the day.
Let's talk about hacks. Some quick ones. You have there, like how to prepare mentally for the next day, right? Like you just said, like you and the boys, that you start like texting each other. Okay, guys, ready for tomorrow? We're gonna have to wake up early, but we got to do it. And then the second step or the next step would be, how do you prepare for that? So you prepare your meals, you prepare your shoes, you prepare your gym clothes, you have your fitness app ready, you name it. And that helps you to prepare for the cues that lead to motivation, and motivation, which leads to the habit of doing it. Later on, it turns into a routine. And there's no routine without rewards, right? So what are the rewards for you after you do that? Like, what do you reward yourself with after you go to the gym in the morning?
Oh man, fantastic question. The reward is I get to eat what I want for lunch pretty much and
Oh,
feel
that's
good.
awesome, man. That's
It's
actually
all
pretty cool.
about food.
Yeah, you know what? I have, I think, yeah, I do the same. I do want to touch briefly on the vitamin N, since we're speaking about these constraints or limitations.
Vitamin N, dog. You can't talk about that shit. That's not even legal.
Come on, man. Yes, it is. Eliud Kipchoge, some of you who like running, this man is. He's like the fastest person on earth, basically. He's run a marathon under 2 hours, which is remarkable. Kenyan. Uh, and he comes up with the concept of vitamin N, which is the power of self-discipline. We already talked about this, but it's the vitamin that helps you to say no to things, right? To set your priorities, to avoid complaining as well. And he said that these three factors lead to self-discipline. And he said a fantastic quote, which is, "The undisciplined ones are not free. They live in a prison. If you're disciplined in life, you'll be free." And I
Oh,
100% agree with this. I
beautiful.
think discipline helps you to, of course, limit yourself, but at the same time, these limits generate freedom. And I am totally on board with that.
I love that. No, that makes a lot of sense. For a lot of people too, they think that discipline and habits is actually restricting themselves.
Let's go. You
Okay,
want to start?
we're on the same page. That's why we do these shit. See units, boy. We're gonna
That's
get.
it.
I gotta have to cut out these shits so we don't get demonetized. One day we're gonna be making a shitload of money. That's we are making $10,000 a month on this content. See, that's
10,000.
how it works.
I'm expecting more.
$10,000. Just start reasonable. Start reasonable.
right.
And don't be delusional. All right. Anyway, my current routine, which is actually pretty accurate. I was writing it out and I was surprised. I was like, shit, I actually do have a routine. I am quite disciplined. It can be altered a little bit, but not much. So at the moment, for the most part, during the week, about 5:30 a.m. wake up, and then I feed the cat because he's my backup alarm. If I feel like sleeping in, I can't because this boy will howl at me. Get up, Papa. And so then I go the night before. I've already pre-packed my gym clothes. Sometimes I'm even wearing them if I've showered and stuff and they're clean. Just go to sleep in them. So it's like a sleeveless shirt, shorts, etc. Pick up my socks. I have my underwear and socks laid out. I already have my clothes for the day. I would say work clothes, but I dress casual at work. So those are already in my backpack with a towel. So that's not a big deal. I will probably pop my headphones in and start playing one of the YouTube videos I talked about while I'm slow. So I'm still waking up but I'm listening to these things and it's putting me in the right vibe for the day. I will usually make overnight oats. So I'll take a few bites of that just to get some carbs in me and then put them in my bag and take them to work with me. Then I go down to the MTR, still listening to my immersive positivity stuff. 7-Eleven coffee, into the gym, 1.5 to 2 hour workout, usually around compound lifts, which I think we can get into in another episode. These are really working your body so you get full blood flow, fantastic energy, endorphins, etc. By the time I go to work, I am basically riding high. I have clear mind. I've noted down a bunch of notes and ideas for projects on my phone. About 8:30, getting into the office, getting personal stuff done, getting some reading done, maybe making notes for one of this podcast or the other one, maybe going through the Dan Co course or any other course we're enrolled in. 9:45, get into work mode. If I didn't go to the gym that day, then I probably woke up and went for a run, in which case I'm going to the gym at lunch at noon, which is I am doing one of these things every day, I promise you. And then grabbing my lunch on the way back, which is usually a bowl of chili with rice, pretty much every day, eating it at my desk, getting some reading done, work, finish the day of work, going home, feed the cat, 2 meals. I have 2 fucking choices of meals. Either rice and meat in a steamer or meat in salad with olive oil dressing. It's simple, it's tasty, it's got all the macronutrients.
Starting to sound like
shower.
Nick. You're starting to sound like Nick Bear there.
Yo.
Another guy we'll touch upon later. Yeah.
Prep for the next day, shower, and then I have this little eye mask that has speakers. So I throw that on and I'll listen to some audio. Usually it's something like this, which was one of the inspiration for the show, just 2 guys that are chatting, and I fall asleep to them every night, just like it's entertaining. So that's my routine. And it's pretty fucking steady, honestly.
Nice. Yeah, I have something similar, I think. I wake up and I have a cat, but I get up, I read or I listen to something. usually constructive, something related to a project that I'm working on, a personal project. Usually, I don't know, I always try to have a side project, personal project on whatever, a competition, portfolio, writing something, you name it. Sometimes I wake up and I feel like I want to meditate. So I do it for 10, 15 minutes and it helps a lot. And then I start the day. Since I'm based in Madrid and the team starts early, 9 a.m. in Hong Kong. But for me, when I wake up and I start working with you guys, it's my 8 a.m., which is your 2 p.m. So I have to start at 8 a.m. I work from home, luckily, so that helps a lot. Get coffee, breakfast maybe in between, and then I work with the team. And that's when the day introduces me to entropy. This concept is the concept of the mind going or declining into chaos, and something that I learned from Danko as well. And that's because I start getting into calls, and then I start getting messages on Discord, and then I start getting emails, and then it's a lot of context switching, which is not great, but it's just the way it goes. Then I prepare lunch or do a workout. Right now, it's, maybe you can see it in my face, it's hot as hell, like literally, and I don't do workouts outside this time of the year. Maybe I go to the gym only, but when it was wintertime, I used to run, and it was super helpful. It helped me like reboot the day, start again, because I'm used to, like, when I lived in Hong Kong or anywhere else, I used to work out early in the morning, first thing in the morning. So this is like a new schedule for me. But anyway, if I don't do a workout, I'll obviously have lunch and then I'll continue working. And then in my afternoon is your guys' evening. So a lot of you guys are just like chilling or getting ready to bed. And for me, that's when I try to deep down, to do like deep work or go into this creative workflow. And I don't have any other time of the day to do this. So I have to really push myself. And that's why the workout helps, because it reboots my body, like yourself. It gives me dopamine, it gives me endorphins, it gives me new energy to start the creative juices flowing. And when I finish my day, if I haven't done a workout, I'll do a workout, run, then prepare dinner, then I water my plants and try to read something, catch up with some reading, but not always. And then it's bedtime and preparing for the next day. Like yourself, it's very consistent. Sometimes it fluctuates with things that maybe are happening in life, but most of the times it's like that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we just talked about compounding habits. Basically, I think we both agree that it's difficult. Even after I read Atomic Habits, I felt so empowered. And I think a lot of people do. And what they do is they close the book and they probably forget about 90% of the book. If there's one thing that you should take away from that book, it's that 1% change every day does add up and compound. That's the main takeaway from the book. But I realize how difficult it is to put that stuff in action without tapping into pure willpower. So what I recommend our viewers do, or our whatever, this community, this ecosystem, is keep following us. And we're going to be chopping this content up into short pieces of content. Anything that was around this that we didn't have a chance to talk about today, we're going to be sharing on probably Instagram or Twitter or something like this. So we're going to be leaving these little breadcrumbs around for people to pick up and be like, oh, that's interesting. We'll link to the episodes where we speak about them. Probably link to any other materials that are good for supporting them. Can't the words slip my head, just supportive content. And just create that immersive environment. And I think that's where we want to, that's what we want to get out of today for action items is take us, treat us as a bookend for you to lean on for inspiration and tips. And you as a viewer or listener are that for us, because if we quit or give up, we screwed up. So we don't want to let people down. Just like Nick Bear takes a picture of his watch every day to show everyone that he woke up and ran. Us posting this show and making this content is that. I got to do it. I got to make the donuts. I got to go to make the donuts.
So we leave it to that, and we'll keep sharing resources on the show notes on IG or wherever. And I think that's the most important thing, that we're trying to create a new habit. Doing this is not easy. We definitely need to put some thinking into it, capacity, physical and mentally. And here we are. So hold us accountable. And hopefully this is useful.
Yeah. So finally, last remark. This is the first episode. So give feedback if you can. Otherwise, we're going to be really like digging into this and talking and seeing what we could do better. So it's going to be rough for some time, but we're going to make it as entertaining as possible. So stick with us. Thank you for listening or watching or following. Catch us on, for sure, Instagram for now. I think that's the channel we'll focus most of our energy on. And see you there. See you on the next episode.
Play that music, boys.
Same one as the intro or the different one? I'll do the other one.
the other one.
I'm vibing, man. All right. With that, I guess we can start the recording.
Say
I am. We are. All right. Peace.